There's a $3 powder sitting on a grocery store shelf right now that can permanently stop rust from ever coming back. Not slow it down, not cover it up. Actually stop it at the chemical level forever. And the reason you've never heard about it isn't because it doesn't work. It's because it works so incredibly well that billion-dollar industries couldn't afford for you to find out. Before we go any further, if you're the kind of person who wants real knowledge, the stuff that actually works, not what they're selling you, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Because at Mindshift Academy, this is exactly what we do. We pull back the curtain. We show you what's been right in front of your eyes the whole time. Now let me tell you something that's going to change the way you look at every rusted bolt, every corroded car frame, every orange spotted tool in your garage. Because the answer to one of the most frustrating and expensive problems in everyday life has been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years. And the people who profit from rust, the auto parts companies, the dealerships, the coating manufacturers, they've spent decades and hundreds of millions of dollars making sure this never became common knowledge. Here's where the story actually begins, and it doesn't start in a lab. It starts in ancient Rome, inside the leather workshops of the Roman Empire. Workers there were soaking animal hides in enormous stone vats filled with water and crushed oak bark to turn raw skin into flexible, durable leather. It was a slow process, a messy one, but something completely unexpected started happening inside those vats. Every iron tool that fell in, every knife, every hook, every iron bracket that touched that dark liquid came out coated in a thin, almost black film. And those tools stopped rusting. Tools that would normally develop orange corrosion within days in the humid Roman air stayed clean and sharp for months after a single dip. The tanners noticed, the blacksmiths noticed, and then the Roman military noticed. By the 2nd century, Roman soldiers on long military campaigns into the forests of Gaul and Germania were treating their iron weapons and chainmail with concentrated oak bark solution before every march. Maintenance records from a Roman fort near Hadrian's Wall actually describe iron preservation baths using bark-based liquid. That's a 2,000-year-old maintenance log. And it's describing the exact same chemical process you're going to learn today. And Rome wasn't the only civilization that figured this out. Persian swordsmiths were using crushed pomegranate rind, which is naturally loaded with this same protective acid, to guard sword blades from desert humidity. Japanese craftsmen used fermented persimmon juice on the soft iron cores of katana blades during the forging process. Iron workers in West Africa extracted it from acacia bark and applied it to machetes that had to survive 6 months of relentless tropical rain. South American metalworkers used a tree extract from one of the most tannin-dense woods on Earth to preserve tools. Traded from Spanish colonists, 5 separate civilizations, 5 separate continents, no contact with each other, all arriving at the same exact solution independently. That's not coincidence. That's chemistry being rediscovered by observation over and over again across thousands of years of human history. Then, in 1813, a French chemist in Paris finally isolated this compound in its pure form and published exactly what it was and how it worked. His findings landed in one of the most respected scientific journals in Europe. For the first time, laboratory science could put a name and an explanation to what craftsmen had already known for 2 millennia. The compound is called tannic acid, and what it does to rust is nothing short of extraordinary. It doesn't just sit on top of iron oxide like paint does. It reacts with it. It converts iron oxide, the flaky orange rust we all know, into a completely different compound called iron tannate, which is dark blue-black in color, insoluble in water, and permanently bonded to the surface of the metal at the molecular level. The rust doesn't just get covered, it transforms into its own protective shield. Think about that. The thing destroying your metal becomes the thing that protects it. By the mid-1800s, the British Royal Navy was conducting formal trials of tannic acid solutions on iron warship hulls. The results, which are still preserved in naval archives, showed 60% less hull corrosion over a 5-year period compared to ships treated with the standard lead-based paints of the era. 60%? With a solution that cost almost nothing to produce. The Navy expanded testing to anchor chains, rudder assemblies, and underwater fittings across an entire fleet. The results held. Then World War II happened, and rust became a full-scale military emergency overnight. Sherman tanks crossing the Atlantic arrived in North Africa with corroded track links and seized turret mechanisms. Rifles stored in Pacific Island humidity seized up within weeks despite standard oil coatings. The War Department launched a classified materials preservation program in 1941 and tested over 200 anti-corrosion compounds and accelerated salt spray chambers designed to simulate years of exposure in compressed time. Those results were declassified in 1947, and what they revealed should have changed everything. A 4% tannic acid solution applied to pre-rusted steel panels withstood over 1,000 hours of continuous salt spray without failure. The best synthetic competitor available failed at 600 hours. Not close. Tannic acid won by a staggering margin. Military procurement officers began ordering it in bulk. Jeep frames, ammunition canisters, rifle barrels, bridge components, landing craft fittings, all treated with the same powder that costs less than a cup of coffee. Now, here's where the story shifts from fascinating to infuriating. Because after 1945, something very deliberate happened. The American coatings industry had just spent the entire war building massive manufacturing facilities, distribution networks, and sales infrastructure around synthetic petroleum-based rust inhibitors. These were products that cost 10 to 50 times more than tannic acid to produce and purchase. A natural powder that any person could buy in bulk and mix in a bucket in their driveway was not an opportunity for them. It was a direct threat to their entire business model, and they responded accordingly. By the early 1950s, a handful of corporations controlled over 70% of the domestic rust prevention market. And the foundational logic of that market was elegantly simple and deeply calculated. Rust must always be treated as a recurring problem, never a solved one. Every can of rust primer on the hardware store shelf is designed around the assumption that you'll need another one in 18 months. Every dealership undercoating service assumes you'll come back next winter. Every replacement rocker panel, every corroded exhaust system, every rusted brake line represents revenue. And it's not small revenue. Corrosion-related repairs account for roughly 30% of the entire U.S. auto parts aftermarket, which itself generates over $300 billion a year. That's $90 billion annually flowing through repair shops and dealerships because of rust damage alone. A $3 permanent solution has absolutely no place inside that economic engine. Tannic acid can't be patented. It's a naturally occurring compound found in oak bark, tea leaves, grape seeds, chestnut wood, and dozens of common plant sources around the world. You cannot build a subscription revenue model around something anyone can buy in bulk for the cost of a fast food meal. You cannot create a franchise service business around a treatment that anyone can apply with a foam brush in their own driveway. So the industry did what industries do when a cheap solution threatens expensive revenue streams. They repackaged it, they marked it up, and they made sure no one ever connected the dots. Pull up the safety data sheet on any commercial rust converter product sold today at any major hardware chain. Read the chemical composition section. You'll find tannic acid listed right there as the primary active ingredient. They take $3 worth of natural powder, dissolve it in petroleum solvents, pour it into a branded bottle, wrap it in aggressive marketing language, and sell it back to you at 10 to 15 times the actual cost. The chemistry is identical to what Roman blacksmiths used 2,000 years ago. The only thing that changed is the label and the price tag. And then, trade name regulations in the 1970s made the concealment even more thorough. Manufacturers gained the ability to list active ingredients under proprietary names rather than standard chemical terminology. Tannic acid became things like stabilized oxide conversion formula, or advanced molecular rust neutralizer, or proprietary ferrous chelation compound. Same molecule, different vocabulary, much higher price point. Dealership rust protection packages costing anywhere from $500 to $2,000 use tannin derivatives blended with wax and mineral spirits. The tannic acid does the actual chemical work. The wax makes it look premium. The price tag convinces you it must be something special. It must be something special. Now here's the part that affects you directly, right now, in your garage, on your truck, in your camping gear. And it's almost embarrassingly simple. Food-grade tannic acid powder is available at grocery stores, health food suppliers, and online bulk retailers. A 100-gram bag costs between $3 and $5 and treats roughly 40 square feet of rusted metal. You dissolve 4 grams of powder in 100 milliliters of warm water. Stir it until it looks like strong black tea. That's your solution. Take a wire brush or coarse steel wool and knock off any loose flaking rust. You don't need to sand down to bare metal because this isn't a coating that needs a clean surface to stick to. It's converting whatever rust is already there. Apply the solution evenly with a cheap foam brush, a cotton rag, or a spray bottle. Watch what happens in the next 10 to 15 minutes. The surface will shift from orange-brown to dark blue-black right in front of your eyes. That color change is the molecular conversion happening in real time. Iron oxide becoming iron tannate. Let it dry for 2 to 4 hours and apply a second coat for maximum depth. After that, you can top it with paint, oil, wax, rubberized undercoating, or leave it as is. A mechanic in rural Montana documented his results treating a 1997 pickup truck frame in 2019. After 3 consecutive winters of heavy road salt exposure, the treated sections showed absolutely zero rust recurrence. Control sections on the same frame that were left untreated showed new surface rust within 8 months of the first winter. 3 Montana winters, 0 new corrosion on the treated sections. Because this isn't a film sitting on the surface waiting to get scratched off. The rust itself was converted, there's nothing left to corrode. Every civilization that worked with iron understood this. Roman legionnaires standing over oak bark pits at the edge of empire. Persian swordsmiths soaking blades in pomegranate water beneath desert stars, Japanese craftsmen brushing fermented fruit extract onto folded steel in candlelit workshops, West African ironworkers painting bark extract onto machetes before the rains came. They all knew. And somewhere along the line, that knowledge got buried, not because it stopped working, but because the people who profit from rust working found it more valuable buried. $400 billion in global auto parts revenue depends on you believing rust is just a fact of life. $90 billion in annual corrosion repair invoices depends on you never finding a permanent answer. $15 bottles of rebranded tannic acid on hardware store shelves depend on you never once flipping the bottle around and actually reading what's in it. But chemistry doesn't care about brand strategy. Iron tannate doesn't expire, and oak trees have never charged a licensing fee. If this changed the way you see that rust forming on your truck frame, on your camp axe, your cast iron skillet, or the tools sitting in your garage right now, then share this video with someone who's been paying mechanic prices for a problem a blacksmith solved 2,000 years ago. Subscribe to Mindshift Academy because this is what we do here. We find the knowledge they buried, the solutions they've repackaged, and the history they're hoping you never connect to your present. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you're going to treat first, because the vault is open. And once you see what's inside, you can't unsee it.